Are you ready to perform at your highest potential? Thank you for joining this GP Strategies webinar, where we'll explore best practices and innovative insights to help you and your organization improve performance.
So again, I want to thank you all for joining today's presentation, and I'm really excited to introduce you to Leah Clark. Leah is the Leadership Practice Lead at GP Strategies, as well as an author and the founder of Leader Connect. She's got over 28 years of experience in the field. She brings a unique perspective on the mindsets and skill sets that are critical to leadership success to her coaching and consulting. Her clients benefit from her collaborative approach to crafting a well-connected and thoughtful leadership development strategy. She holds a Master of Arts, Organizational Psychology at Columbia University, and a Bachelor's of Arts, English and Sociology at Boston College. And we really do have a great session for you today. And I am handing it over to you, Leah.
Great. Thank you so much. And thank you, Kim. I always feel great with you as my co-pilot in these sessions. So thanks for setting us up for success. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're dialing in from and what part of the day you are in today. I am delighted to be here today to talk about redefining identity and purpose in the age of AI. And there are so many conversations happening around AI right now, and for really good reason. Advancements in technology and AI, generative AI specifically, they're really poised to change so much of our world. Our processes, how we interact with each other, the way we define creativity and authenticity, originality, and potentially they have the opportunity, I'll say, to alter how we see ourselves in the work that we do and how we show up in a way that adds purpose and value to our organizations. And that's where today's topic comes in today. In this session, I want to tug at one of the many, many threads that are part of this, what I'll call very complicated tapestry that is a human and AI-enabled world. So a topic that I think is going to take us into some different avenues, different layers of artificial intelligence. As Kim mentioned, I am Leah Clark, the practice lead for the leadership division of GP Strategies. And this topic is important because I think we're glossing over a lot of different aspects of AI, and maybe for good reason. There's a lot coming at us each and every day. I'm guessing just about every email you're getting, many of the webinars you're signing up for, the articles you're reading, even Oprah's getting in on it, right? Everyone's talking about AI. Well, today I hope to talk about a nuanced and important aspect of artificial intelligence, and more specifically, what leaders can do to be empathetic and show up in a human-centered way to help their employees, let's say, ride this massive wave that is artificial intelligence. Let me get specific about how we're going to do that. So this is our roadmap for the time that we have together. I want to touch upon how AI is changing jobs, which is likely not anything you haven't already read about or are experiencing yourself in your own organization. Then I want to go under the surface, and I want to talk about what may be going on for some of your employees and perhaps for you, some questions that are tugging at us as we embrace or think about embracing AI relative to our identity, who we are, the jobs that we do, and how we matter in our organizations. And then we're going to talk about what can leaders say and maybe not say with respect to encouraging a human plus AI embrace or team, and what leaders can do to keep their people engaged and confident that they matter to their organizations. I'm going to talk a little bit about what leaders can do regardless of AI to make that happen, to make sure that their people know they matter. And then I want to share some nuances with respect to that same topic in light of artificial intelligence. How does AI complicate this conversation, and what can leaders do? So we'll get a little philosophical, we'll look at some data, and we'll get practical in the back end with respect to what your leaders can do to really engage in a dialogue with their teams. Now, what I'd like to do here, one of the best parts of sessions like this, I think, is to crowdsource the response to questions like this, and for you to think for yourself how you would respond to this question, which I can see some of you already doing, and to also find out what some of your colleagues are doing around the globe in similar industries and similar roles. What I'd like to know is which of the following best describes your personal approach to integrating AI into your work. Are you using it openly? Do you share with others when you've leveraged an aspect of artificial intelligence? Are you transparent about that? Or are you using it secretly? You're dabbling in it, but perhaps you're not in a place where you feel comfortable or your organization is comfortable acknowledging that. Maybe you're not using it at all for a variety of reasons. Perhaps your organization has parameters that prevent you from doing that, or maybe you're just uncertain about how and where to use it. Maybe you don't trust, but I'd love to just know and then share with others what best describes your personal approach to integrating AI. And it looks as though we've had the poll open for about a minute and 20 seconds. 72% of you have participated. If those of you who haven't want to just click, we got 73%. So I think 75%. I could stay here till we get to 100, but I won't do that to you. Let's go ahead and close the poll. And it looks like 78% of you are using it openly. About 4% are using it secretly. That's okay, no judgment. And another 18% are not using it at all. Now, I may not be entirely surprised by the results. After all, you did sign up for a webinar that is talking about, and Kim, do I need to click? I think I need to click share results. Let me just make sure you can see that. Okay. Not surprised that perhaps we're skewing a little bit more towards the open use. Again, you're here on a webinar talking about artificial intelligence, but helpful to see that you all are in a place where you're embracing it and perhaps figuring out how best to integrate various types of AI into the work that you do. Okay, so let's go ahead and ask you another question, very similar, but I'm asking you to think about this through the lens of your team, your employees. Now, I understand that if you think they're using it secretly, you don't know, right? So I am asking you here to take a little bit of a guess and give me some sense for when you think about your teams, the employees in your organization, are folks using it openly, talking about it, saying what came from AI and what is theirs? Are they using it secretly or not at all? Where do we fall on this spectrum? I can see the results coming in. We have about 60% of you participating. I'm going to give it another moment so we can take a look at this. Using it openly, you talk about it, people know, it's out there, it's transparent, you're figuring it out. Using it secretly or not using it at all. Okay. Well, it looks like we have about 70%, 72% of you participating in this poll. We've had it open for about a minute. That feels about right to me. We got to 75% again, 76. I like to usually beat my benchmark, and we just did that. So let's go ahead and close it out at 78% participation. And let's take a look at the results. Okay, so still a decent number, 63%, more than half of you say that your employees are using it openly. But interesting to note that using it secretly has drifted up a decent amount and not using it at all as well. So 22% and 15%. This doesn't surprise me relative to the delta between maybe your use. If I assume that many of you are leaders on this call, perhaps when I asked a similar question not that long ago in another webinar on AI, I saw a delta much like this. The question I had asked previously was one word that describes how you feel about AI, and then one word that describes how you think your teams or your people feel. And much like with this poll, there is a disparity between how leaders or you are self-reporting your own feelings and your own use, more positive, more open use, and how your teams are feeling. The words that were used to describe how your teams feel: anxiety, nervous, skeptical, and we can see here in this similar poll, their use of it is also decidedly a little bit different. than what you reported in the previous slide. So great context for us to have heading into this discussion, and for you to have a little bit of a benchmark in this session relative to what your peers are doing. So a range of responses, not surprising. Let me just close out my poll here so I can take a look at the chat. Regardless of where you are, it's really hard to deny that AI is having or will have an impact on the way we work. In many ways, just another phase, perhaps, of the Industrial Revolution. And in that way, presents maybe a very similar challenge for leaders and organizations. Work becomes mechanized. Mass production changes industries and the way we get work done and deliver goods. Automation and electronics, networks, computers, cyber systems, all opportunities to reshape and shift the way that we get work done each and every day. So we've seen this before. We recognize that in different ways, in different aspects of this industrial revolution, we have an evolution of work. AI, the next turn in that cog, the next aspect of the revolution or the evolution. And so in many ways, somewhat similar to the kinds of changes that we've seen in the world of work in prior aspects, in prior ages, so to speak. And in many ways, very, very different. This data from the World Economic Forum, the scale and the pace of how roles are being reimagined. 23% of jobs globally changing in the next 5 years, jobs being created, jobs being eliminated, skills that are changing dramatically, things like critical thinking, creative thinking, systems thinking, curiosity, lifelong learning, resilience, and flexibility. Just some of the skills and topics that are bubbling up to the top of the list in ways that perhaps we haven't seen in prior years. Maybe not new skills or new terms, but terms that are more and skills that are more prevalent against the backdrop of AI. So a similar evolution in the way that work gets done, but also very different in terms of the scale. What's different as well about AI, and it goes perhaps without saying, but I'll just name it, is the pace at which it is morphing and changing. The uncertainty with how it works. It's a little bit murky for many. We're, hurtling down a very foggy road, if you will, and we're moving at warp speed. I've often used the term certainty, absolute certainty with very little clarity. And it tends to sum up the sentiment that many leaders have when they talk about AI, which is to say, they are absolutely certain it's going to change everything. And when you ask how, there's an abundant lack of clarity, and that's okay. No judgment there. Just an acknowledgement that this is the same and also decidedly different. So the pace of it, the lack of certainty, and perhaps most notably for this conversation, because we're going to talk about the human element, the degree to which it starts to mimic human thinking and mimic it in such a way that starts to feel a little bit uncomfortable. A world that is changing, that requires leaders to elevate their own skills if they are to remain relevant and lead their people who are a little bit sensitive perhaps to it, through this massive tidal wave that is AI. And so how are they going to do that? How are leaders going to do that? Well, I've talked about these 4 leadership imperatives as opportunities to illuminate and light the path forward, if you will, for leaders, what they need to do in this age of a human plus AI team. First, embrace AI, elevate leadership skills, communicate with intentionality, and then that third one, connect to the human element. So important. And this is where today's topic is going to come into focus, that connection to the human element. Now, to be very clear, these are not discrete imperatives. There is definite overlap or adjacency. And you'll hear some of that when I talk about what leaders can do. You're going to hear aspects of communication or skill elevation. So they are connected, adjacent, overlapping imperatives. But for today, I want to go a little bit deeper into number 3 and talk about a specific aspect of the human element that I think artificial intelligence sort of pokes a stick at, if you will. AI is creating a bit of a challenge for individuals and forcing some of them, perhaps those who are a little bit more self-reflective or impacted early by AI, to reconsider their roles and how they perceive their contributions when a bot or technology is capable of performing tasks that they're currently responsible for. So if our identity is wrapped in our jobs and a bot or tech takes over responsibility for some of the more nuanced aspects of what we do, by extension, does it start to take over or chip away a little bit at our identity? Now, I recognize that this question that some employees are wrestling with is going to be highly individualized. Some people don't see their identity as connected to their job quite as much, and others, particularly those who maybe have a vocation, there's a really strong connection. So it is a very individualized equation. It may also change a little bit based on generational differences, though there is some data to suggest that millennials and Gen Zs, they do identify to some degree with their job, even as perhaps they do a better job, perhaps, of compartmentalizing than other generations. But regardless, AI sparks some really intense questions and feelings about our work and our identity, particularly in those instances where AI can start to feel, again, like it's taking over the way we work, and maybe by extension, the value that we provide. So to the extent we identify with our jobs, does AI start to steal a little bit of who we are? Does it threaten to steal our identity? And if we use AI, what does that say about our authenticity and how we see ourselves and others see us? These are some of the bigger questions that I think AI, again, is, I'll say, poking a stick at. And I think it's an area where leaders can help engage in meaningful dialogue with their employees. So let me just illustrate this a little bit further. If I'm a writer, I might feel as though my work matters and I'm proud because I find the right words, the right tone, the right emotion to convey the organization's message. I might even think of the work that I do as my craft, and I hone it and I spend time to get it just right. And now, with just a few keystrokes, AI can do something that feels like a pretty close facsimile to what I do. And if I use AI, am I still a writer? Do I start to become fearful that, yes, my livelihood is a little bit threatened by this new technology, but maybe something more than that? What about if I'm a graphic designer? My work matters because I make sure that our graphics are accurate and they reflect well on the company. But now AI provides the designs. It maybe does the PowerPoint or selects the right graphic. Maybe I'm a copy editor and now AI can do some copy editing. Do I still add value to my organization? And how does this maybe shake my sense that the work that I do matters? And do I matter? If I think that I add value by making sure our organization shows up well, and AI now can do some of that, what does that mean about the value that I add, that I bring to the organization? So what's at risk for many is livelihood for sure. I feel uncertain about AI. I worry that it will take my job. It might make it obsolete, and maybe it threatens some of my more basic needs. Perhaps if I'm in that camp of increasingly anxious or uncertain about it. But the nature of the work that generative AI can do, thinking work, work that mirrors human intellect and human processing, I think it starts to strike at something bigger than that. It gets at the top of this hierarchy of needs in some profound ways, causing questions that are a little bit bigger. Who am I if AI can do what I do? And do I matter? And do I still add value if I use artificial intelligence? This idea that a bot has some aspect of intelligence and therefore some aspect of a human is a really hard mental move for folks to make. And it shakes our foundation a little bit. It starts to get at this question of identity and mattering. And this is what I want leaders to be aware of. When we talk about leaders creating connection and being empathetic and being aware of what's going on with their people, this is one sliver of what I think leaders need to tune into so that they can help shape and reframe the conversation. So for purposes of this discussion, I'm defining identity as a sense of self, who I am and how I see myself. And mattering is the feeling that I add value and I'm important. This is the conversation that I want leaders to reshape, to reframe, to understand what's happening for many employees when it comes to AI, and to help their employees, this is the shift, not to see AI as something that takes over their sense of purpose, but something that helps them get there in a different way, a way to elevate or augment their skills. Not something that's coming to steal our soul or our humanity, if we look at it the right way and use it the right way. And I think it's incumbent upon leaders to shape that conversation. That's the conversation to shape. So let's talk about how they can do that. But before I do that, I'm going to ask you to participate in a quick chat. And to do so, I'm going to ask you to finish this sentence that I readily admit I am keeping very open-ended by design. And so here goes. Just go ahead and finish for me in the chat this sentence, AI is. How would you respond to this? I recognize it's very open-ended. Okay, so the future, a way to leverage my experience, a need. Oh, I like that. Scary, scary, smart. Here to stay. Karen, I'm going to endorse that. I know you can all see your chats, but I'm calling out the ones part of our future. Ooh, Amy says currently a massive time waster. I love the spiciness of your response. I wish you and I could go back and forth on that. A tool, Ashton says, an intelligent helping hand. Okay, Marcia says creepy. I'm with you a little bit on that, Marcia, especially depending on which parts of AI we're talking about. All right, Ina, thanks for being vulnerable there and saying something I need to start using and learning. For sure, you're not alone there. A better version of myself. Oh, I know, Lisa. I'm gonna really push back hard on that because Lisa's contributions are significant. So, all right, Dr. Brown says a good assistant and more time for doing yoga. That is such a great reframe. I'm gonna use that one myself because yoga has slipped off my to-do list. So let's get that one back on there with the help of AI. So the reframe that I really love and the way that I would love for leaders to consider engaging with their people in conversation around is to see AI as a tool. AI is a tool that is most powerful in the hands of a human being. Until it is in a human being's hands to activate it, it is not nearly as powerful as it can be, as scary as it can be, as threatening as perhaps some people think it is. It is a tool that can help us attain or obtain that sense of accomplishment and identity and value. So rather than a threat to some of what we do, why not as leaders encourage your people to think about AI as something that is a tool in their hands? Here's the key part. The choice about how it gets deployed is ours, a really powerful part of this phrase. So the reframe for leaders is to engage in dialogue with their teams and position AI as a tool. And so let's look just quickly at what that might be if we are considering those same examples. And I'm keeping an eye on the chat as well. Your colleagues are popping some good thoughts in there, so make sure you check it out. So let's take a look at this. If we go back to that writer that I referenced a little earlier, I'm a writer and my identity is tied up in writing. I might see the why, my purpose, as something like, I find the right way to convey the right message with the words, the tone, the images, the awareness for the organizational context and what's important. Well, AI can be a tool that helps you get there. It can enable the how in terms of writing copy or maybe sourcing images. But it still requires that human in the loop, bringing in those other aspects of intelligence, social intelligence, emotional intelligence, to really bring out the best in that final product. So the reframe is to say, look, AI might change the way you achieve that sense of purpose, how you get there, but it doesn't have to change your why. It doesn't have to change how you see yourself. It's a tool that can help you get there faster, maybe in a different way. But to do this will require the reframe. AI doesn't steal my identity. It helps me focus on the most meaningful aspects of the value I provide. And this is the reframe that I think leaders need to be aware of and support if they want to lead a human plus tech enabled world. And to look at this again, yeah, so the writer has to find a new identity as a prompt engineer. No, Gabrielle, I would say just the opposite. My suggestion is that the writer could use AI to support some aspects of the work that they do. Maybe it's clarifying a sentence, or maybe it's copy editing. Perhaps that then frees them up to spend more time on the value-added components of what they bring, understanding the organization, the tone, the context. So to see AI not as something that replaces the emotion and the value that the human brings and their experience brings to that writing, for example, but not to push AI away either. Don't give it so much importance that it starts to make you feel like the work you do doesn't matter, but perhaps consider reframing it as a tool that allows you to get there in a different way. So to that same extent, that's a great pushback, Gabrielle. Keep those coming. In the same example, or in a similar example with that graphic designer, right? My purpose is I help others show up well. Well, now if AI can perhaps create those PowerPoint slides or source some graphics, does that mean that my purpose is not there anymore and I'm not adding value? Again, a reframe, I think, is required. Not that AI is a threat to the value I provide, but a tool that can augment my potential, and it is most powerful in my hands. Yeah, I appreciate you challenging, Gabrielle. This is exactly the conversation I want to have, and I think we have to have with our people. So certainly bring it on. This kind of challenge is what I think gets us to think more about what's happening here, and as a result, reflect and uncover ways to engage in conversations with our employees so that we can create that connection I mentioned. So the reframe is, again, AI is not a threat to the value I provide, but a tool that can augment my potential. And it is most powerful in my hands if I use it the right way. So the reframe is not that AI takes my jobs, but that AI is a tool to help me do my job better. Yeah, and Arvid is saying a soul sapper. It could be. I can absolutely see where overuse, misuse, over-reliance could certainly send it in that direction. And it again pokes a stick at some of these bigger questions around what are novel ideas and innovation and art and what is yours and mine and authenticity, all really complicated but useful conversations that we want to be having so that we can think about embracing AI and keeping what matters most about human beings engaged. Okay, so let's talk about that. Let's get to what leaders can say and do to keep their people engaged. Now, before I share what some of that language might look like, because words matter, let's talk about what not to say. And at the risk of getting some more spiciness in the chat, I'm going to invite you to participate in this. I'm going to share what not to say if you want to encourage this combination of you add value and AI can support you as a tool, culture and environment. So what not to say. I'm sure some of you have had comments that either you've stumbled over or someone else has shared that do the opposite of encouraging open and productive use of AI. And if you've stumbled upon any of these and you want to share them in the chat, go ahead and do that. Here's what I'm talking about. This is what you don't want to say as a leader. Did you write this or did ChatGPT? Or this is really well written. How much of this came from ChatGPT? Or maybe you've heard somebody casually toss something aside, like pretty soon this is all going to be done by the robots. Stumbling over the words that we don't want to say if we want to encourage this environment of human value plus AI. Yeah, so Nita, and I hope I'm pronouncing your name the right way, has just chimed in. You might look at these and say, okay, well, is anyone really saying these? Are leaders truly stumbling over this with this, sort of deplorable comments? I will tell you that second to last one, true example. I was coaching a leader who had spent a lot of time really working hard on a content outline for a particular workshop that they were developing. And they wrestled with this idea and struggled with it and researched and really poured their heart and soul into the proper design. And they were presenting this design to their leader. And after going through it and talking about the different aspects of it and the approach, the leader casually said, well, if we're not sure about the design, or if we're not sure these are the right topics, did you just throw it into ChatGPT? I was like a sucker punch for this leader, because in that one quick comment, it made the individual feel like, wow, my work and my thought and my input was just reduced to an algorithm or a prompt. So some of the things not to say fall along the lines of this. Or the other one, like, did you cheat? Well, that's the perspective. I'm sure as heck not going to use AI if that's, what I'm hearing, or the vibe, if you will, that I'm getting from leaders or the organization. So what not to say? Better to be thoughtful about your words, right? To send those messages. Your work matters. You matter. Your contributions are important. And where can technology support or complement our efforts? How might AI validate or offer another idea? Is there a way we can incorporate technology into this to refine your effort? Or thank you for finding new ways to do things. So what can leaders do? Words matter, and being thoughtful and intentional about the messages you send, it's a really good place to start. Because I think that leaders play a really important role in encouraging employees to embrace AI. We want that human in the loop. I'm sure you've heard it before. And when I'm talking about AI as a tool in the hands of a human being, I'm underscoring that message. I believe that employees can see the power of technology and are more likely to embrace it when there is a leader in the loop as well, role modeling and encouraging and saying and doing some of the things that we know will help demystify AI and take away that feeling of like, ooh, you're cheating, or did you really do this, or did ChatGPT? Okay. So what can leaders do? Well, I'm going to do a quick public service announcement here that doesn't have to do with artificial intelligence. These are what I'll call good reminders or best practices. If you want to send the message to your people that they matter, the work they do matters, their contributions are important. Even if we had never said the term artificial intelligence, these are some of the things that we know are best practices. So first of all, promoting awareness of work and purpose, engaging in that meaningful dialogue with your employees to grasp their sentiments about their role and how the contributions that they're making, how they perceive those contributions within the team's broader objectives, and then share your perspective on the value that they bring. And you can see here some debate about what matters to Gen Z and millennials. Deloitte always turns out some really solid research, and they would suggest that for Gen Zers, a sense of purpose is important. And in fact, some Gen Zers have even turned down employers based on their personal ethics or beliefs. So this idea of work and purpose and engaging with your people matters. Number two, connecting to the overall mission. Certainly, it is a lot more, it's a lot easier for individuals to remain engaged and feel as though they matter, that they are bringing value to your organization when they believe in the mission and they connect to it. So as a leader, sharing that mission in your own words, reminding your people of the work that they do and how that connects to the overall mission. Again, regardless of AI, these are good reminders or best practices. Establish clear goals. According to Gallup, 50% of workers lack clarity on what is expected of them. That's mind-blowing, which means 50% are walking around not really sure of what it is that they need to do. So the importance of goal setting in giving direction and focus, helping people understand what they're accountable for, and remaining motivated, incredibly important. Investing in growth. I'm all about leadership development and professional development. So this one is certainly near and dear to my heart. Conducting those regular conversations focused on professional development, showing a genuine interest in your employees' advancement, understanding what their skills are, their aspirations are. That is one of the most significant ways to let them know that they're valued and that they matter. And then last but not least, recognizing and celebrating contributions. This is one that I would advocate for, understanding what good looks like for each of your employees. Maybe it's public, maybe it's not for them. What do they value in terms of celebration and recognition, and understanding how to get that right for each of your people, but certainly not ignoring or giving the short end of things to the recognition and celebration of contribution. So again, regardless of AI, these are good best practices. I did just want to touch upon them. And then let's talk about what leaders can do in an AI world. If we want to say things and do things that continue to let people know your work matters, you matter, I value your contributions, what are some of the practical things or actionable things that leaders can do? Let's talk about that. Well, first of all, in the category of don't say this, do this, what you don't want to do as a leader is set up this robot versus human super battle, the all out who's going to win and they're going to take over and who's better and whose work is this, pitting this sort of battle for the soul of humanity and identity kind of crisis is not the way to go. And perhaps I'm being overly dramatic, but when you look at even images, I don't know if anyone's ever searched for images that talk about humans and AI together. They're all this really crazy sort of dystopian, apocalyptic sort of images. And I think that reflects a little bit how sometimes we're teeing up the AI and human combination. So not this. It's not a robot versus human super battle. It is embracing AI but maintaining autonomy. So guarding against surrendering to AI entirely. Employees want to feel as though they have some sense of control over their decisions and the work that they do. So appreciating the value that they provide and bringing in technology to amplify that work that they do and their contributions is critical. So a little bit of healthy distance. Technology, bots, they deserve a seat at the table, but the contributions of a human plus AI as a tool is the real prize. So valuing not just what the algorithms or the patterns are through the processing that AI does, but valuing intelligence as defined by social intelligence and emotional intelligence and good judgment. That which human beings bring to the table, combined with what AI can do as a tool to augment some of the contributions that your teams are making. What else? Explore diligently and adopt intelligently. So some great data by Ernst & Young. Exploring diligently and adopting intelligently is all about making sure you're not rushing into AI use without some critical thought, without prioritizing empathy and discernment, and making sure that your people know that they are significant in the face of what is massive technological advancement. This survey, I think, is really notable because you can see at the bottom, 4 in 5 of those surveyed believe that AI will make them efficient and more productive, and they are more comfortable adopting it when they see all levels of employees involved in that adoption process, and when they see senior leaders promoting responsible and ethical AI use. So what I love most about that quote at the top is really the last part of it. The idea that we can reshape work processes to make sure that we avoid, this is what we want to avoid, reducing workers to interface prompts, right? We know that human beings are much more than that. And so let's use the interface prompts to expedite, augment, it's a tool, but the real prize happens when human beings and that tool interact to produce something great, something fantastic. Number 3, engage employees in AI discussions. Have those employees involved in the dialogue. Collaboration is key. There are some organizations doing some pretty cool things that model this really well. I just want to call out a couple of them. I've given you some data points. I'd love to give you just a couple of case studies that you can certainly read about. Trek Bicycle, the bicycle company, they have an advanced technologies team, and this team believes that every employee, no matter what their position, should have a say or has some thoughts in how AI can be used. And so this team interviewed over the course of several months every employee within the organization and asked them about where they saw AI improving their work environment. And from those interviews, they presented 40 concrete use cases for AI. And what I loved is that they put employee well-being at the center of those suggestions. So absolutely a great example. Crow is another company. They're saying, like, look, we realize that AI is scary, and so we need to upskill and get people comfortable with artificial intelligence. They have a sort of basics of AI curriculum that their people go through, and then they have them participate in different guilds, which are informal collaboration opportunities for their employees to talk about AI. And then last but not least, I'll just offer that Rocket Company, they have a little bit of a take on ChatGPT. They have Rocket GPT, something that sort of uses their words as well. And it's an open space for their employees to submit proposals or ideas and share with others the ways that they see AI could be incorporated into their organization. I'm keeping an eye on the clock here, and I know we are coming up upon the last couple of minutes of our time together. Prioritize empathy, validate your employees' feelings. That's a lot of really what this session is about, illustrating how you as leaders can empathize with your team members and help them to feel comfortable that there is a space for what they bring to your organization, the value they bring, along with artificial intelligence. I think we talk a lot about leaders being empathetic. I'm not sure we often unpack exactly what that looks like, what they can say, what they can do. And so hopefully we've done a little bit of that in the session today. An organization who's done a good job of this is Adobe. They have also committed to responsible AI use, and they put their employees, they call their employees customer zero. They involve them in the use and development of AI technology. They have an ethics board and a review board so that they can make sure that they are responsibly not ignoring AI, right? They would have been maybe a company who, would have been threatened by AI, and perhaps they still are, but they found a way to embrace it and say, how can we bring it into our model and into the work that we do, but keep our employees involved in that conversation and be sensitive, especially as it relates to art and creativity, to some of what they may be feeling. And then last but not least, effective communication is key. This is a wonderful quote that illustrates why. There was some great data that was done by the American Psychological Association that looked at the level of essentially anxiety that individuals had about AI and its impact on their engagement at work, their feelings of anxiety and agitation, their potential for looking for a new job in the next year. So there was a correlation that they were able to show between individuals who express that anxiety around AI and some of these other dimensions, while fully recognizing there may be other things that are feeding into that lack of engagement or that desire to search for a new job. But certainly some concerns about well-being and anxiety. Communication can be a great way of balancing enthusiasm, but also addressing the valid apprehensions that some employees have. So communicating without inundating, communicating regularly will help to alleviate some of those concerns. All right, it looks like Karen says fear of AI in the workplace was your thesis topic. Yeah, so important that leaders recognize fears and mitigate it. Well, Karen, as an expert on this, I hope that we've done it a little bit of justice here and opened some eyes to the nuance and the sensitivity of what this strikes at. So it's not a super battle, it's a supportive tool, and you employees matter. Embrace it, but keep that healthy distance, explore it, involve your employees in the discussion, and communicate. So it's this balanced enthusiasm to view AI as a supportive tool, but a tool that is best used in the hands of your employees. So as we wrap up here, I want to circle back to the 4 leadership mindsets: embracing AI, elevating skills, communicating, and number 3, which is where we took a deeper dive into one sliver of it, connect to that human element, sending the message to your employees that they matter. And a key part of this is supporting leaders in their journey, in their AI journey, and giving them a safe space to learn and explore. As part of the work that my team and I are doing, we're wrestling with this every day and coming up with some creative ways to allow leaders to do just that. We're giving them time in digital experiences to spend less time focused on prompt engineering and algorithms, though forgive me, those are important for those of you who focus there, but to spend time first and foremost on emphasizing human connection alongside the algorithm. So giving leaders the chance to have a safe space to learn and then share their ideas and talk to their colleagues about the possibilities. So this quote, a fantastic book by Julian Stodd and others, Engines of Engagement, a curious book about generative AI. I highly recommend it. This quote: "We've created engines that don't simply serve us. They outperform us. They free us and potentially indenture us. They feed us and feed off us, and they may take your job or make you better at it." And I love that he captures both the uncertainty and the hope that I think this world of human plus AI brings to us. So with that, I did want to let you know that we at GP Strategies are in the process of conducting some research on the role of the leader in advancing the human plus AI agenda. We'd love for you to participate in that research. You can scan the QR code and link to that research if you are interested. And those who participate will be entered in a drawing for a free seat in our upcoming Leadership AI experience. So with that, I know that we have just a few moments left. And I wanted to see, Kim, if we had any questions in the Q&A that you'd like to throw my way. And I'd also encourage, I love to think of myself not as a subject matter expert, but a facilitator. And, to the extent you'd like to also chime in the chat with some of your thoughts on the topic or the questions that come up, I think crowdsourcing is a great way to make our ideas even better. So, Kim, wondering if there are any questions that have come up.
I did see a question that came in, and I don't know if excuse me if you've already covered this, but there was a question on how or what is a good way to start a conversation with your team on the usage of AI.
Yeah. So I would say first and foremost, the way to approach that conversation is likely going to be informed in part by your organization's policies. So if your organization has more of an open policy around AI use, it's going to be a more straightforward opportunity to open that discussion. I like including some kind of question in your regular team meetings where you can talk about, what do you believe the impact will be for our industry? Have you used it? What have you noticed? So a great way is to incorporate it into, a normal part of your team meetings and the work that you do. I also am a big fan of learn and share. So giving your team the opportunity with a very specific assignment to go and use some aspect of artificial intelligence and then come back and discuss it. Right? We all know that there is no substitute for experiencing anything, and AI is no different. It's one thing to read all of the articles. It's another thing to put fingers on keys and start to see in front of you the implication for how it can augment your work. So giving your team the opportunity, a specific assignment to go and use some aspect of AI to answer a question or to, offer another perspective, and then come back and discuss as a team the pros, the cons, what excited you, what scared you, is a really great way to open the dialogue. I think another way is, as a leader, to demonstrate that you're engaged in this conversation. What are you reading? What are you thinking through? You don't have to be, sort of up to your eyeballs in prompt engineering or exactly how the algorithms work, but at least demonstrating to your people in your conversation and in your action that you're willing to take some steps in terms of using AI, I think is a great way to open that conversation. Now, I also recognize that that may be difficult in some organizations where you're precluded or preventing from using artificial intelligence. That doesn't mean that you can't still have a conversation about it. You can't read an article that is maybe industry specific or a case study or, for heaven's sake, watch Oprah and engage in a conversation around it. But I do think carving out intentional opportunities to engage in the discussion and to invite your people and to role model the use is a great way to get those conversations started.
Great. There was a question about metric use of the impact and value of AI. I don't know, is it too infantile to really have any metrics right now, or are we just floating in the wind right now?
I mean, I do think there's so much that's unknown that it's hard to answer that question in a really generic sense. I think that would be pretty industry specific and organization specific. And again, informed by your policy on AI. But back to my comment about using AI as a tool, I might look at other organizational metrics that you have around efficiency or effectiveness And instead, as you implement AI, look at the impact of AI on those existing organizational metrics. So rather than try and measure AI per se, if you are using AI as a tool to enhance other output or other contributions, how can you potentially look at, again, an increase in those established metrics of efficiency or effectiveness and the impact of AI on that data when you consider that AI is a tool to enable better or different output.
Thank you, Leah. We are coming at time. So with that, I do want to thank everybody for joining us today and remind you that I will be sending out a copy of the slides as well as the recording within 24 hours today's session. I also want to thank Leah for your great discussion. You're a superstar. We love you. And also, I wanted to say a big thank you to everybody joining us for today for your time and attention. At the end of the session, we do ask you to take just a brief minute to fill out our survey. We do like to have your feedback to guide us to provide you with information that you're looking for. Don't forget to take our leadership survey. Sorry, a lot of due diligence right now. Take the survey and get a chance to attend one of our open sessions. We hope you'll join us again for another one of our upcoming webinars. Be sure to visit GP Strategy's website to view our future sessions. And I want to wish everyone on the call a wonderful and productive rest of your day. Thank you again.
This webinar was brought to you by GP Strategies. Together, we help organizations transform through their people. You can access more webinars or download additional resources by visiting the GP Strategies Resource Library. The link is on your screen and in the description.